Hey crafters, welcome to the DM's Craft. I'm DM Scotty, as you know. You may notice that I have a different shirt on today. It's in honor of the video we're doing today. I'm going to do a lava tile and show you how to do that. I've already created the tile using the other techniques, and I'll explain how I did it, but I crafted this tile specifically to feature lava. And so I'll show you the tile, explain what I did, and then we'll move on to painting the tile to look like a lava flow going on in the tile. So let's go onto the table and start crafting. I want to talk about the tile a little bit before we begin. You can see this is a fairly complex cave tile. What I did is I've got a raised area here, which is I've done with the video on the multi-layered tile. And I did that exactly that way. I just made a smaller area. I also put some stones there. I'm going to have some lava flowing down here. And then in here I'm going to have some lava through the cracks of these stones. So basically what I did is I made this tile, and then I marked on the tile itself and cut these pieces out and then put them back, glued them back on a very thin piece of cardboard. You could use a thin piece of cardboard, or you could use some cardstock. So that's what I did. So I did the tile itself, added this raised area where the lava is going to flow down, and then I cut the tile. I marked the tile up with the Sharpie, and then cut all these pieces out and glued them back onto this part underneath the tile. So fairly complex, but it's got a neat look to it. So what I'm going to do is, I think first what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in some of these stones, give them a little bit of texture. So I'll grab my big glue gun here, and then I'll start adding some texture. This is a step you wouldn't have to do, but see how quick that is? It's just bam. That really adds some pizzazz. Make sure you get yourself lots of glue sticks, because you will use them, especially if you do this technique. Now I've got all the rocks done, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the edge here, but I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of pull it in a little bit, just to give a little bit of texture, but not do the whole deal. That way when I do the rest of the cave, I won't have to bring this texture into the whole thing. It'll just look like it's part of this tile. So I'm just getting the edge here, or close to the edge. I'm just pulling that in a little bit. All right, so it looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to start doing the lava, and we'll do that next. I'm going to start here. This is going to be the source of the lava, so it's going to be flowing down into the tile here. So I'll do is I'll grab my glue gun, and I'll just start making thick lines. And I'm doing this generally a bit thicker than the water, because this is lava. It's a thicker consistency. But it's a very similar thing to what you can do with water. So just pour it down into the tile. It's rushing around those rocks. See, that's got some really nice texture there. And then we'll move on to the tile, and gonna kind of have it pooling at the bottoms here. So I kind of make a little bit like that, like a circular pattern, like it's flowing into there. And this is using a lot of glue. So then I'll kind of straighten it out. You may find that your glue gun is starting to run out of hot glue, like I'm finding here. So what I'll do is I'll do this part and then I'll let it rest for a few seconds, or a few minutes actually. All right. So there we go. We got some really nice texture on there. I'll let that dry and then I'll fill in the rest of this tile. So now that our glue gun is sufficiently warmed up, we'll fill in the rest of the lava areas. And I'm giving it a generous helping glue. Just get between those cracks there. Now we got a pound of glue on here. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this now is I am going to take it, I'll base paint it black, and then I'll spray the texture paint on, and then I'll come back and finish it up with the detail painting. So see you then. Because I wanted the rock to look volcanic, I sprayed it with a different type of paint. You'll notice this is kind of a darker paint. So basically it's this, see if I can show it to you. It's this Krylon Make It Stone textured paint, but it has this blackish top. So it's kind of like a black texture with some white flecks in it. So I did that to start this tile. So I sprayed that up, and now we're ready for some detail paint. Now I do want to add a little more texture on this. So what I'm going to do is use my sponge, and I've got some pewter gray on there, and I'm going to kind of tap some of these rocks. So just a little bit. And you could do these like normal rocks. You wouldn't have to do them like this volcanic, but I thought it'd be fun to do, since it's a volcanic cavern, to do them like volcanic rocks. So that gives a little bit of texture without overwhelming the volcanic look. Brings out some of that texture I've done on the rocks. A little better look there. See how that looks? All right, now I'm going to move on to the next step. Now when you think about lava and fire, it kind of has a reverse shading. It goes from the lighter areas to darker. As the crust kind of starts to cool, it gets darker. So I want to start with the yellow, kind of like I would do with a fire. And so I'm going to use a bright yellow. I'm going to use this wedge brush so I can get between these thinner areas. So I'll just start applying the yellow. And I'm just applying this straight, no dilution. Now, as you can see, as I'm putting this on, it's a little thin, partly because the tile was so dark. So we're going to need to put another coat on this. This isn't going to suffice. But one thing I'm going to do with the highlight, instead of doing the light gray like we normally do, I'm going to use the yellow and then go around the edges of the rock like this. Kind of like it's glowing, like the lava is glowing onto the edge of the rock. So that's a nice little effect there. You can even do it on the wall there. So it still gives dimension, but it gives a whole nother effect. So as you can see what's going on here, kind of got the lava flow starting up here with this multi-layer, and it's kind of oozing down into this chamber. So a nice little effect. You could even remove the rocks from something like this and have like a fire elemental or a lava elemental or something come out of the lava here and then come down and assault the poor players. So, but that's always optional. Or break through the rock, either way. But that gives a really nice effect. It really looks like the wall is glowing, the edges of the rocks are glowing. So really nice effect. We'll let that dry, and then we'll put a second coat of yellow on before we move on. I have my second layer of yellow on there, and you can see that it's much brighter than it was. You definitely want to do that. I also did the highlights with another layer of yellow to make them brighter. So now we're going to move on to the next step, which is the orange. So I'll just grab some on my brush, and then I don't want to cover up all the yellow. I'm just going to kind of pick up some of the higher areas. So you can see it's definitely making a contribution to the effect, but it's not totally covering up the yellow. All right, so that's a nice little effect there. Makes it look a little more like lava. And we'll let that dry and move on to the next step. Now that the orange is dry, we're down to our last layer. So I'm going to use a true red and just kind of go over pull it over that texture. So here we go. Got our nice lava look here. If I wanted to, I could do another layer and do a little bit of black on top, and that would be like that the lava had kind of crusted over. What I actually like to use instead of the regular black is I like to use, they have a color that's a metallic black, and that works really nicely looking like a kind of a crusted layer on the lava. So that's what I would use instead of the black. If you can't get it, then you can use the black, but I would use that if you can. And see how nice that looks? And we'll have one last step, and you can probably guess what it is. We're going to put the gloss on here to make it look like it's wet and liquid and running. So we'll do that. We'll let the red dry, and then we'll put that on. To give it that final oomph, I'm going to use my water-based varnish. And this stuff is great. I've talked about it before. It just cleans up with water, so you can use your regular brushes and just clean it up with soap and water. It's also a thinner consistency, so it's pretty easy to put on. Some things are like Mod Podge or a thicker consistency, so they're a little more difficult to put on. This is just very liquidy, so easy to put on. And like I say, water cleanup. But it really will give that extra oomph to your... A lot of times also I will put 2 coats of this on. It just seems to really work better. And give it that super high gloss you're looking for with this kind of stuff. You know, when you're doing this stuff, don't be too impatient. What I usually do is I'll do one thing on a particular project and then I'll work on another piece. So if you have multiple tiles going, go work on another tile. Let the one dry. Don't try to rush it. All right, so I've got a nice coat of gloss on there. And like I say, I'll let that dry, and then I'll put another coat of gloss. I think I'll put another coat of gloss on there. And then I'll show you a figure on here to see what it looks like. So there we go. Some nice lava going on there. And we'll come back with the figure to show you what it looks like. So here we go. Here's our finished tile. It looks really nice. The lava really looks like it's oozing down into this lower area. Got these nice little islands that the players can jump onto and fight something if they need to. You could also have heat damage in the room since it's so hot, that kind of thing. So they might want to use fire resistance or that kind of magical effect. But there, it came out really nice. Not too hard to do. Great effect, and it looks spectacular as an area to fight in. So I'll see you next time on the DM's Craft.